This season of the Creative Piano Teaching Podcast is proudly supported by My Music Staff.
Welcome to the Creative Piano Teaching Podcast, the place where teachers from around the world meet to share innovative ideas about music education. Listen and learn as we help you motivate your students, grow your income, expand your studio, and become a more creative piano teacher.
Hi everyone, and welcome back again to another episode of the Creative Piano Teaching Podcast from Season 1, 2019. This is episode number 153, and my name is Tim Topham, your host for this show. A very special welcome, of course, to my Inner Circle Piano Teaching community members, and whether you're listening for the first time or the 153rd time, I do appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for tuning in today. The Creative Piano Teaching Podcast is your home for inspiration, ideas, business, and teaching strategies to help support your teaching and grow your studio. Today's guest is one of my Inner Circle members, and when I saw some of the help and ideas that she was giving to other members in our community forums, I knew I had to get her on the show. She's created some truly innovative and creative ways of both engaging students in studio-wide events and recitals and building a strong sense of community in the process. I guarantee that the discussion today will spark ideas in your own minds about ways that you might be able to incorporate novel studio events in your practice and perhaps build some community in your own studios along the side. And that goes whether you are teaching groups or one-on-one. Because the ideas here work in both circumstances. Today's show notes and full transcript are available now at timtopham.com/episode 153. My guest today is wife of one amazing man, mother of three, grandmother of 11, and piano teacher of many. Known for her passionate creativity and far from boring recitals, her core teaching values include providing a fun and engaging learning environment that stimulates community while striving for individual excellence in musicianship. Her studio focus is on beginners to intermediate students, and she currently teaches 40 students from preschool to senior citizens. Welcome to the show, Linda Poelzer.
Hello, Tim. How are you?
I'm very, very good. And just before I hit record, we were talking about temperatures. So we just had about 40 degrees Celsius here, which is, I don't know, 100 and... Do you know what the conversion is to Fahrenheit?
Oh, we're Celsius.
Right. So it was really hot anyway.
Yeah,
and what is it with you?
We are minus 30 and with the wind chill of about minus 42. So we're good.
So what do you do? How do you go out? You must just cover up everything. I hope you have a car in a garage or something.
Yeah, that's right. Heaters.
Oh my goodness.
That's right.
I can't imagine. I've been hiking in Nepal in winter, Everest Base Camp, and we got down to about minus 30. So I do know what it's like, and I'm really happy to not go back to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that think it's a bit chilly.
Yes, a little bit. So tell us where you are in the world, and a little bit about your studio at the moment.
I'm in Red Deer, Alberta, Canada, and my studio, it's quite interesting. I just moved to Red Deer 2 years ago, and so I became quite intense on having to promote my studio and to get started, and I currently have about 40 students.
Fantastic.
So it's gone very well. Yep. We've also moved. We're about to move for our fourth time in the last 2 years too. So
no.
But I think this is it.
Right. And is that a complete restart? All new students?
Yes. Well, no, not this move. No, but I'm moving from a downtown commercial location, and we bought a house now, so I'm moving home. So
wonderful. Sorry, I thought you were moving across the country again or something.
No.
Oh goodness. So that's actually an exciting move. So you're moving out of teaching in your home into a commercial space. Is that what you're saying?
No, the opposite.
Right.
I'm moving from a commercial space into my home.
Right. Because you now have room in your home.
Yes.
Got it. Cool.
Yes.
And we'll talk a little bit more about what Linda's lessons look like in a moment. I mean, Linda, you've been an Inner Circle member for about 1.5 years now, and I love bringing Inner Circle members on to the show to chat about the amazing things that you're doing. And I can't wait to get into all the things that you have created for your studio. You're going to be blown away, listeners, I'll tell you what. Our focus today is on community building style activities, and that's really what most of the things that you've created that we're going to talk about are all about. So, why is that a focus for you in your teaching?
Well, you know what? I think that human beings are designed and created for community. I think no matter what it is that we're doing, if we are doing it with others, we bring the best out of each other and we propel others on and we encourage them. And I think the piano bench can be extremely lonely. And I think parents traditionally send their kids off to practice piano in the basement and close the door or turn the volume down on the digital. And so trying to create some way that this is as much fun as doing any sports activity or anything else, that they would just engage that way.
And I guess one of those community building approaches that you've taken is to move to a group format. So can you tell us a little bit about what your lessons used to look like, how they look now, and how you actually made that transition?
Oh, I did teach group lessons about 10 years ago. I taught music for young children for about 5 years, and they gave me a good basis for what lesson prep would look like and how the setting would be. However, their format did not align with my creativity level. Right. So we had some, I just felt that it restricted me quite a bit in what I needed to do and what I felt I needed to do. So I think the biggest part with moving into the group lesson was to convince parents that this was a great idea and that there'd be a valuable, as they would be as valuable as a private lesson. Somehow or other, the public feels that we need to be one-on-one is more valuable than community, especially in a piano setting. I think so anyhow. So
I think that is a general expectation for parents and the community. That would be true.
Yeah. And tough questions like what if somebody's better than the other one? How do you move them on quicker? How do you give one-on-one attention? How do you prepare them for recitals? And how do you prepare them for exams? And to tell you the truth, I teach hybrid lessons, so I kind of crossed that. So once everybody gets both, they get both group, or if you're private mostly, then you have group lesson once a month. And if you're group mostly, you get private once a month. So the last week of every month is called Hybrid Week, and I mix up everybody's schedule and make parents go gray, but everybody's happy. So it works.
That's great. So you do have that mix of both. So students can get some one-on-one time to catch up with things that they need to. Right. And how big are your groups?
4 is maximum.
4. And do they each have a piano or a digital?
Yes. I have five digitals and 1 acoustic. So.
And do you have you created your own curriculum that you use, or do you follow someone else's?
I use mostly Piano Safari,
right,
as my key, and for my beginners in the group, that's where we start with. And for the older ones, I mess around with what I can find. That depending on where they are, some want to do pop music, and some want to do chord music, and some don't want to touch anything that isn't written, and you kind of just go with the flow.
So that must be hard in a lesson if you've got 4 and they're all different like that, right?
Well, those ones they only get once a month, right? So the older ones are more private, and with the once a month group. So
also predominantly the people that are mainly group and only occasionally it's single tends to be the younger students and the beginners.
The beginner students. Yeah.
Right. Great.
Yeah, not just the youngers, but I've got a group of older beginners and they're 12 years old.
Yep.
And then I've got a group of adults that are doing the older beginner group too. So
great. And tell me about your parents, because I gather that you offer your parents lessons.
I do offer my parents lessons. I think it's really valuable for parents to understand what I'm doing, especially since I am so far off of what they grew up with doing. And I turn, get 7 more gray hairs every time somebody comes in and says, every good boy deserves fudge. Because I'm like, no, we aren't doing that anymore. Come on. There's no pattern. And so, and they also don't understand what rote teaching is, or the value of improv. And the whole concept of listening to your pieces before you proceed to play them on the keyboard. So it works really great for them to come. So what I do is I've offered all my parents about 60% discount for a group lesson. I think it's valuable for them and valuable for me. Interestingly enough, my last group they talk about their kids a lot, and I get to understand what their children are like and what they're practicing like at home. And the parents will say, oh, that's why they had trouble with that. Oh, I thought it was like that. And to me, it's invaluable.
Incredibly valuable. I can see that. And is that a compulsory thing? No,
it's not.
What percentage of
to
parents
make it that way?
Yeah, sure. What percentage of parents take you up on that offer?
So far, not that many.
Right.
Probably about, I don't know, maybe 15%, something like that.
Okay.
I
Well, it's
hope.
a time issue, I guess, for many of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want them to come during the daytime hours because that's my open hours
Right, of
for
course. And that's the time
scheduling.
when all of us have freer schedules.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
So,
interesting. Well, it's an interesting idea. That's the first time I've ever heard of a
mm,
teacher offering that and the results of it. So, congratulations. Nice idea. Be interesting to
thank
see
you.
how it develops.
I've been really pleased. I'm pleased with how the parents are now talking about the personality traits of their children and how they respond to different kinds of things at home and what works and what doesn't work. And
Mm,
I can also lecture the parents nonstop on hand position, and doesn't bother them. You know,
right. Yeah.
I was telling them how impressed I was that it only took them one time to get the pencil out of the pencil case, and nobody had to, screw it all the way down and push it around before they could use it. They were efficient.
It's like, yes, teaching classroom teaching and then teaching an
Yeah.
adult. Yeah, great. Have you noticed any change in your students whose parents have been joining you for the groups? Either in their
Mm,
practice ability or they're moving faster or they more confident or anything like that?
yes. Yes. I think there's a difference. Yeah.
Right.
They come prepared. They come with everything I've asked them to do, pretty much completed. There's that invested interest in what's going on. So that's, to me, it's valuable. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. Well, that's just one of Linda's many, many cool ideas. So let's get stuck into some of these other ones, which I hope that our listeners can perhaps try themselves, or maybe you'll just give you some ideas for other things that you could do in your studio to build community. And I think, Linda, I'm right in saying that most of your ideas are built around two things. One are recitals in particular, and some of
Yes.
the ideas you've got around recitals, and also games and activities in lessons.
Not in lessons. I do a big game party thing once a year,
Right.
which is, I guess, sort of recital driven, but more so game driven. And
Mm-hmm.
that would be where the Piano Olympics fit under that one, and the Funhouse Games.
Okay.
So that's one thing.
Can we talk about those? Let's talk about those
Sure.
first, because I remember when we first started talking about this idea of getting you on the show, we were talking about Piano Olympics because that's one of the ideas you talked about. And now Funhouse, Funhaus, which must be a play on a German word.
Yeah.
Funhouse Games is what you're doing this year. So tell us about this idea of the Olympic type events that you run.
Well, I'm kind of like crazy and a little bit competitive. And because Olympics were last year, I was trying to figure out how I could align some kind of a competition that the kids would be excited about, and then align it with piano. And so I came up with a few ideas. So I divided the studio into 3 teams. So that way there'd be a gold medal, a silver medal, and a bronze medal.
Mm-hmm.
And for 6 weeks, they had to track their piano practicing minutes on my music staff, so that I could keep track. And we had a great big bobsleds map on the wall where their teams were racing their bobsleds to the finish line, kind of thing.
Cute.
And then from a pedagogical perspective, I was quite concerned about the fact that my kids were not listening to their rote pieces, and their parents hadn't bought into that, and they couldn't grasp it. They were going directly to the music or reading the score. So what I did was I took what I call the skeleton race, and I went online and I checked to see what the skeleton race in Olympics was. And it brings it down to the bare basic core. And I decided, well, there's nothing more basic when you're learning a musical language than to be listening to it. And so we started with listening. So what I did was I picked a different song for each of the students, and I sent them just the audio link to the parents. And they had just the audio link for 2 weeks. And then the next week was their private lesson. And then I gave them the music and worked with them on the notation of it to teach it from a rote perspective. The kids are blown away. They all had their own skeleton solo. They were just stoked that they could memorize it. They were stoked that they'd learned it without reading any notes. So that was one of the things that I wanted to achieve. And that was what I did achieve in terms of from the musical perspective. And people did start to listen to their music way more carefully after that because they figured it was valuable.
Always a good thing. So this,
Yes.
so this, Linda, this happens once a year in your studio, and it happens over a period of a few weeks.
Well, I'm doing a 6-week countdown to it. Yes.
Okay. And how long does the Funhouse games go for?
Well, the Funhouse is going to be at the end of April.
Okay.
So this year I'm using Nicola's 50 days of practice. She's told me she's going to reword it to 50 days, and so I can count it for that. And we're doing the note speed challenge. You're probably familiar with note speed.
Yeah, that's isn't it?
No, it's a card game. It's like Blitz.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes, I have
Dutch
seen
Blitz.
that played. Yes.
Yeah, and the kids love it. So we're going to have a round robin.
So, sorry, I'm still trying to get to grips with how it works in your studio. So kids are coming for their group lessons or their individual lessons. Are they, for the 6-week lead up to the end of April, are they doing different things to what they would normally do? They're all focusing on the note speed and the skeleton race and those things. Is that right? You kind of do something different for a while.
The countdown to the big games, and I send home one of Nicola's games or note speed game for them to be practicing on every week. So they'd be focused on that,
right?
And then focused on their performance piece, focused on whatever points I happen to choose to do in terms of what that's going to look like.
Right. Okay.
Like this coming up here, I'm focusing on rhythm, so they'd probably be getting more specific rhythm exercises that I would be asking them to complete, whether that's theory pages or different rhythm ensemble things, whatever I happen to come up with. To the end of April, I still got a few months.
Right. Yes, you do. And everyone can see their progress.
Yes.
Or it's a competition amongst those 3 subsets of your studio.
The 3 teams. Yeah.
The people who get the highest round robin note speed challenge results, or the people that...
No, the round robin notes, all those final games only happen on the one day.
Oh, right. Okay. So they all come together for one day, the whole studio.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that must be quite an event to run, because that's 40 kids or so, right? And
this year. Yeah. The Funhouse, I actually can hold 100. So we're going to see, I've restricted it to the team that gets to the finish line first in the studio competition get to bring one parent and one sibling members because they won. And then it will be just because the space is only allowing for 100.
So the Fun House is a physical building in your town.
It is.
Right. And it's a play space, is it?
It is. And it's really cool. We were there with our family, and they actually do have a piano. And so I thought, why don't I bring the whole group down, and we have a little piano recital here. And they will all have a piano solo to play for that time too.
Right.
And that particular solo I would want brought up to performance expectations. Like different times I ask different amounts of them, and that would be one that I'd say one solo, and it's going to have to be the best you can do.
Right.
So how I work that up. So.
And I assume you give them time to roam the Fun House
Absolutely.
games.
Yes, we actually get it for 4 hours.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we'll probably have pizza. And so the round robin tournament for the note speed will happen on site.
Right. Okay. So there are certain things that happen in the lead up in their lesson and in the studio. Yeah. And then you find out who's going to be the winner of that. The winner of that gets some special privileges like bringing a parent along. Then they all meet, your whole studio meets together at the Fun House for 4 hours of fun and games. They perform, they play on the equipment and all whatever else is there. Yes. And you do some of these challenges. Yes. And then they get some medals or something.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And I go home exhausted.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Do you have anyone to help you? Do you have other teachers in your studio?
No, I have my husband. I call him my studio assistant, and he's pretty amazing.
That's great.
Yeah, I got some great parents, and I ask for volunteers and get them to be team leaders and team captains. When Piano Olympics, each team had an adult captain and then an adult helper. Mm-hmm. And then we had some judges to judge the different events. Probably the biathlon was the favorite because they got to shoot Nerf guns after they had cross-country skied. Now, I used oven mitts for cross-country skis. So they had to put the oven mitts on and go around the gym. And then they had to lay on their bellies and shoot at a target that they had set up, which was plastic cups. So they'd made a tower. Each team made their own tower. They kind of wish they'd been a little bit more strategic about it as they got going. But so,
very cool.
yeah, and as I was saying, the penalty minutes, for example, if somebody jump started, that person would get sent to the penalty box, and the penalty box sounds bad. The penalty box was doing theory games.
Right.
It had to be something simple, like it could have been, like draw 5 treble clefs or something like that, something that was related to music, but it would slow down their team progress.
Right. Yes. And you wanted it to be musical.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. In the relay, because I had kids as young as 4 up to 14. So in the relay race, I had a big rubber glove. Somebody had put 2 rubber gloves on at the far end of the gym, and they had to reach into a pail, pick up a clothespin, run in, put the clothespin on the right finger number. The clothespins were all numbered.
Right.
So the kids, for some of them, that was exactly what they needed. The 4-year-olds, that was huge. And for the 14-year-olds, it was just a good way to run.
Right, got it. And so where have all these individual game ideas come from?
Oh, mostly my head.
That's amazing. Like, I wouldn't even think of oven mitts as sleds going around the gym surfaces, clothes pegs. That's amazing. So you just go, all right, how am I going to do this? And just think up some ideas.
Yeah. Go to the dollar store and see what I can find.
Wow.
Yeah. Bobsled race, the 4-man bobsled race was quite successful too. So 2 kids had to be in a toboggan. No, you don't know what a toboggan is, but a sled.
I get it. Yeah.
And so one had to be pulling and one pushing, and 2 had to be in there. And they had to go across the gym. And at the other end, there was, again, a theory game, like put your token on a space line or put it on, make an interval of a third, depending upon find a group of 2 black notes, label them in whatever way, depended on the age of the child. But so, just my basic random brain doing things that...
Linda, it's not basic or random. It's incredibly well planned and very, very creative, innovative, and imaginative. I think it's fantastic. And I think teachers who are listening, these are the kinds of things that could be used for us if you're going to run a summer camp, for example.
Yes.
Those kind of things, or as you do it, a one-off annual event that really brings the whole community, the whole studio together. And what I thought you might have been doing was going to a recital center or something and making it very musical, but you're actually kind of separating it from the formality of music and you're going to a gym instead.
Yes.
Which I actually think is great because it takes the pressure off. Even if they're going to perform, it's not as serious, or perhaps they can be a little bit more relaxed when they do that. And they've already been running around with all their friends.
And they got to pull the name out of a hat who would be playing the next song, and each team cheered for their own team member, till the sky flew down. It was kind of wild, but that's what we do.
I think that's amazing. And for people who are listening and like this idea, you've obviously got a great space in the fun house. That's obviously very, very cool. Did you do the first Piano Olympics in that same venue or a different gym?
I did it at our church gym. And we have a grand piano there that they just rolled in for us to play the piano for the recital into the gym. So it worked out really well.
So it was a space on a church. So you have a church building and they had like a hall next to it or something like that. And
a church building and it has a gym that's attached to it.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
trying to think of ways that people without such amazing spaces could do something similar. But you're really saying the prerequisites are an open space, preferably with things, line markings and balls and things, and a piano.
Yeah. And this year for my year-end recital, I'm using 2 pianos and I'm bringing in digitals because I want them to match. And I don't think a grand piano will be the same as having 2 digitals that are the same that the kids are used to practicing on. So that's my idea. I don't know, maybe.
Well, it also saves costs as well of transport and hiring another acoustic grand potentially. And everything. So, yeah. And I don't teach professional, high students either. I don't teach smart band students. So we're going to have fun with the 2 pianos when we use it and have 3 or 4 kids on each piano in between time and see what happens there. I love doing that in my recitals as well. Now, a quick word from our sponsor, My Music Staff. Most of you have already heard about My Music Staff and how their software helps thousands of music teachers manage their businesses more efficiently. They handle all of your student management issues, scheduling, billing, and so much more. It's what I personally use in my own studio, and it's no surprise why it's the leading studio management software. What I think really makes My Music Staff stand out is its community-driven development and personal approach to customer support. It was such a pleasant surprise jumping into My Music Staff for the first time and realizing how in tune it was with my business and the ins and outs of a music studio. Since they partner with the music community to develop their software, they've been able to anticipate what teachers need and are constantly improving their software to exceed expectations. And a more recent example of responding to community feedback was the addition of a very popular feature, streaming video and audio files directly within the My Music Staff app. And that means that no longer do you have to download files to your device. So it makes it incredibly easy to share content with your students. My Music Staff is super easy to get up and running. The transition away from paper and spreadsheets is painless. If you do need help, the quality of support is second to none, and you'll always get a fully personalised response. I have yet to see the level of attention and care I receive from My Music Staff provided by any other software platforms I use, and I use a lot of software in my business. So what have you got to lose? Just go to mymusicstaff.com and sign up for their free 30-day trial today. So let's talk a little bit more about recitals, because you've got some very cool ideas for this too. Tell me about Name That Tune and how that went.
Oh, that was so cool. So cool. Again, because I'm focusing on the kids listening, I've been doing a lot of naming that tune. I play a little snatch of the pieces they were working on, and they were supposed to name that tune. So the idea originally came from somebody, I think, that posted on Vibrant Piano Studio, I think.
Facebook group, yep.
Yes, I think so. So what I did was because I'm getting to know the parents quite well and getting to know who's familiar with what genre of music, I just got parents to volunteer. Well, I kind of roped them into volunteering. Mm-hmm. And the students played, and I only had 4 students do it, but I had 2 of my 9-year-old boys be MCs, and one of them spoke with this lovely English accent the whole time, and he was just hilarious. He was so funny. Element. He was in his element, no kidding. So the songs that we chose was Music Box Dancer, Frank Mills, and then the theme from Pink Panther, which was done as a duet, and then Amazing Grace, and then Perfect by Ed Sheeran. And those were the 4 that the students picked basically that they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I knew I couldn't do it for everybody. It had to be a limited time frame of people that could do that, because it took a while. Right. By the time a 9-year-old with a cute accent calls up the right contestants and interviews them and what they're interested in, and explains to them how they're supposed to keep their hand on the buzzer, it takes a while.
So you had, so this was, I'm picturing a recital, normal recital, and then this was a segment of it where you had the boys emceeing it, and they would call up the contestant. How many contestants would come up on the stage?
2 of them.
2 of them, okay. And they might be grandparents or parents.
They were parents, grandparents, aunts. Mm-hmm. There was one father-daughter that went off against each other, and that was great. And I'm not sure if you have staples, but they have that was easy buttons. Right. And so I just bought 2 buttons, and they had to have their hands behind their backs, and then they stood with their hand on the button. And
who would play? So then someone would play the piano.
Yes.
Playing something like Amazing Grace, and they would have to buzz to guess that tune.
Yes. But I let the kids pick which part they wanted to play. They played 3 measures.
Right.
And it could be whatever 3 measures they chose to play.
Okay.
So that was part of the fun for the teenagers, that they could pick the part that nobody was going to get. Because if the teenagers won, they got the chocolates, and if the contestants won, they got the chocolates. So
I see. Okay. And the student would do the playing of that, the 3 bars. Got it. Were there any times when the contestants couldn't pick what it was?
Every time. Every time.
Right. Well, I was thinking like music, you said Music Box Dancer or something, which I don't know if I could recall that myself.
Frank Mills. Well, yeah, you're just way too young.
Oh, okay. But I knew like a child contestant wouldn't be able to guess that, even if they did recognize it.
No. And I had a set of grandparents do it. They were guessing it.
Right.
And so I knew that. And I also knew.
I see. Yeah. So you organized the right tune for the right contestant.
Yes.
Got it. Yep.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And so the theme from Pink Panther, I knew that this father loves everything of music and knows it inside out, but he didn't get that one.
There you go.
Just about killed the kid at the piano. He was just giggling all the way through because he managed to pull that off.
But what a fun little way to break up a recital that otherwise might be, fairly traditional. You could throw something like that in. So thank you for sharing that one, Linda. What
I haven't done traditional.
Right. I'm getting that feeling. What about Halloween? What do you do there?
Yeah, Halloween, they all came in costumes. And they were, either I'm going to do a Halloween party or a recital, and I'll speak to the recital. And I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do because I had a lot of piano safari kids beginning, and they all were playing Herbie Hippo and Charlie Chipmunk. And and I love coffee. So what I did was I read a story, and Herbie was way over in England, I think, and he wanted to fly all the way to Canada to go to this Halloween and experience Halloween kind of thing. But before he could go, we had to get coffee. So we had to do I love coffee. And then the next Herbie Hippo came up, and he had to play something, here comes Herbie Hippo again, and so I just tied the whole story all the way through of Herbie's adventures in camp for a Canadian Halloween.
Very nice. Yeah.
It worked out really well.
For listeners who don't know what we're talking about, these are all pieces that students learn if they're using the piano safari method. So if you're wondering what on earth Herbie Hippo is, that's part of piano safari.
It is. And then some of my older students did some of Daniel McFarlane's songs. Like he's got that whole darker segment that worked really well
the spooky castles.
Yes, the haunted house, the haunted escape, and a couple of Wendy Stevens songs going too that for Halloween. So it was great. The kids were really just having costumes on for them was relaxing. Mm-hmm. And of course, having me tell a story, and I brought Herbie Hippo along and set him on the piano, and he moved all the way through. And it was a nice, relaxed environment for them to be doing.
Yes.
This kind of thing. So.
And you also do group parties with your Halloween.
We do.
For the Halloween theme. Is that just the groups of 4, or do you sometimes bring multiple groups together? I
have been using group up to 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
And do they dress up for that? I imagine there's junk food eaten. And they play for each other or something?
I haven't played for each other, but we do some target throwing with old Halloween candy, and I've got my 5-gallon buckets there. And if they get, every 5 shots in or something like that, I can't remember what I did exactly. Then they got, they got some kind of a prize. But if they didn't, they had to do push-ups. I know they got to go get the next card. Burpees. Right. They like doing burpees. And so again, it was they just really fully engaged with it. Everybody, it didn't matter what they were doing. Again, I tied a theory game in with each one of the events that they did. So,
and these are all things that your children can talk about and tell other children about, and they can go, well, I want to have some piano lessons with Linda too, because they sound like so much fun. So, I mean, it's all it's marketing material as well as giving your current students fun things to do. You obviously learn really well when you're having fun, but you can get great photos of this kind of stuff happening in your studio. You can put it on a website. So there's lots of reasons to do this, I think, which is why I can't fathom how many creative ideas you have. I think it's great. Now with your parents, you do a date night. Tell us about that.
I tried that this year. I wanted to do a parents' dessert date night, and I actually sent out a save that date thing and hire a babysitter thing and show up at the studio for a date night. And of course, basically it was a parents' meeting where I went through the year and told them all the grand things that were planned. But I had, like 98% turnout. Like It was phenomenal. Like I had 2 that couldn't come then, but they came during the day. But other than that, everybody showed up. So it was great. And so often because I'm not normal, I'm not average.
I think you're the first guest to say I'm not normal on this show.
But in order for them to understand, and I wanted them to understand the skips alphabet, I wanted them to understand the patterns, I wanted them to understand teaching by rote and the value of that, and I wanted them to understand how we're learning a musical language, and hand position, on all these things that I'm going to be, talking about. And I made up a practice kit for them because I don't like them, kids just don't have pencils when they come to do their theory. They have to always do it in pen. But how to use the sight reading cards, what my standards are for recitals. What does a Christmas coffee house look like? I mean, that isn't something that anybody's really done on a regular basis. And so just so that they would have a good taste of what was to come for the year, but also to understand that their kids might be coming home with assignments that they're just not going to grasp without going to the teacher's manual. So I did make a parent's manual for them, which with my policy and with the student calendar and also with the expectations. And almost all of their kids' assignments I tag with green flags, meaning it's a brand new piece, and a blue flag is a reminder piece, just different things rather than writing it in their notebooks. And I wanted parents to know that, and different code colors and stuff. Parents meeting. So
yeah, it's a great way to get that information across, which I've previously done in a newsletter, which you never know whether people are going to read or an email. So actually to have them there, they meet you, they meet other people, they have some dessert, they might have a glass of wine. Again, you're building community, not just with your students, but also with their parents. I think it's fantastic. You also mentioned another thing, the Christmas coffee house recital. What's this one? I'm exhausted just listening to all of those.
Well, I find parents are really busy at Christmas time. Everybody's busy going nuts. And for me to throw in another Christmas recital where I'm going to expect a high level of performance, high level of excellence. I do not want my students coming to a recital and blowing it. I'm pretty anal about it, pretty picky about it. I expect them to have worked hard to their full capacity. And when they get there, nerves can take over and things can fall apart. And I'm aware of that. But we want to be well prepared. And for me to ask that of parents over Christmas season sometimes is a big ask. Everybody's quite exhausted when little kids and you've got so much going on. So the Christmas coffee house idea, again, I stole it from somebody off Facebook group, but I'm going to probably put my own swing on it. And I said, drop in, come and go. You don't have to stay for the whole thing. I've got muffins, brunch, go to hockey in the morning, show up, 11 o'clock, bring your music, coffee's ready, muffins there, Christmas baking. And every kid basically was prepared to play, anywhere from 6 to 10 pieces. They just covered a massive amount of Christmas music because they liked it. It was an easier level, but they were certainly covering pieces. So that was what I was going for. Went through a lot of coffee. So we set up tables and they put coffee and chairs around the tables, and people just got up and went and helped themselves, and the kids kept on playing through the whole thing. The parents were a little bit more polite than I was wanting them to do. They actually listened to the kids play. I was thinking more of a busker kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So some of my timing was off because there was too much applause. Right. You're being too nice. But it was good. Actually, part of it was really good. Can I tell you a story? Yeah. I had a dad called me. Well, actually the mom called me, and the dad had decided he wanted to do something special for his daughter. Would he be able to learn one part for a duet?
Yes.
And that's the only thing he ever wanted to do. He'd never do another piano lesson again. He just wanted to do this for her. And he wanted to surprise her at the recital. So I said, better yet, why don't we do a trio? So Mom would play one part, Rhea would play the other part, and I would tell Rhea that I'm going to play the third part, which in the end, Dad would come up and he would play it. It was amazing. And so she had no clue, totally. And then Burke comes up and taps my shoulders and tells me to get out of the way, and he takes over at the bottom of the piano. And we did Carol of the Bells, the Susan Parody's version, and he's got 7 notes to play. And he's a mathematical whiz, and so he had a mathematical formula for everything that was going on. And he did a great job. But man, we laughed so hard. And it was just such a nice part of the recital also to have something that was not super formal, but it gave him an opportunity to do something really special for for his daughter and probably all of us. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
great.
fantastic. Yeah, great story. And so that coffee house recital, you were open. How many hours were you open for when people could drop in?
3.
3 hours. Okay. And during
Yeah.
that time, you expected every student to come and play 10 pieces, whatever it was. You were picturing more that people would sit around tables and talk
Yeah.
quietly or do some games or something like that with the music almost in the background.
Yes.
But that didn't quite eventuate. And so,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were listening
Yeah.
actively, which is great too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's, something that you could work on if you did it again, I guess.
Yeah.
But you obviously would have found, I would assume that the students who were playing would have been far more relaxed in that situation.
They enjoyed it. Yeah. Yeah. I had to cut most of them short at around 5 songs. And I said they could come back later. And from a teaching perspective, I wish I would have had everybody prepare 3 pieces well. And then have some on the back burner in case they wanted to. But,
right.
We learn.
That's right. Well,
Next year will be a little bit different.
The thing I'm most excited by with what you're doing, Linda, is that you're just trying so many new things. And you're quite okay if it doesn't quite work out the first time. You'll either not do it again or you'll improve it for next time. And
I used to think I was easily bored.
Well, there's no possibility of that happening anymore, I wouldn't have thought. Do you find, though, that this is, by trying all these things, it's really reinvigorated your own approach to teaching, freshened up because you're trying so many new things? Or have you always done this all through your career?
I think I've always done it. I think back in the day, I was really, my students did really well at festivals and stuff because my music was always new. The adjudicators had never heard it. It was something that was fresh. They weren't hearing something, they'd heard it, the last places they played at. And I think they played really well too. I had a high standard of what I expected, but I love finding new music. I love finding new ideas. What I have found the last couple of years is the freedom to add improv and to add rote and to consider that to be a valuable part of the lesson and the learning process. And that's going to back you up to who I was and who I am. And I was a voice major. And when I was turning into grade 9, going into grade 10, I randomly auditioned for a really high caliber choir and I got in, it was strange. So I decided to take voice lessons. But I had been playing piano at church since I was 11 years old, but I couldn't read any music. And so I was every piano teacher's worst nightmare because I would take 2 lessons and I didn't want to play middle C position because I could already play all over the keyboard. And this last year, I've been taking some lessons with Bradley Sowash. And I have discovered that things I've been playing on the piano like a bazillion years ago, he's got a name for it. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so I think it's been invigorating for me since joining Inner Circle to find out that those things that I was in trouble with all the time for not reading the notes, like formal lessons for me didn't start till I was 18. And my teachers would say, you just can't do that. You have to play what's written. And I'm like,
I beg to differ.
And there is, well, there's a value to it. And I think because the teacher in me, I was always coming up with new ways to make that happen in my own life. I was able to transfer that over to teachers and to students, I mean. So I think that was valuable. But in reality, so many adults now that took piano lessons can't play anything because all they could do is read the 7 notes that they wanted to learn in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm trying to help support teachers in teaching differently so that we avoid that happening to this generation when they get to adulthood. And you're doing amazing things in your studio with all of this community building and just excited. Like it sounds like such a fun place because there is so much going on. My one question, and we'll start wrapping up, is how do you have the time to do all this? I know there's going to be teachers listening going, I don't have time to run all this and devise these games and things. How do you do it?
Well, I do most of my planning for the year in June and July, like the summertime. So I have my schedule set out and I know what direction I'm going. Currently now I know what my theme is going to be for next year. So those kind of ideas are there. And so I don't have to re-event the wheel for those kinds of things. It's just keeping the momentum going. And I have, the capacity to offer myself grace if it doesn't quite fit the way I wanted it to see in my original visions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
And so my biggest thing that I'm concerned about now, and I mentioned it to you, is my year-end recital that's coming up now, where I want to reinvent all the groups and reshape everything to add composition and ensembles. And I'm like, is this going to work? That just like, you start asking yourself, like, just how crazy are you? But
I just put yourself through.
Well, I just see so much value in it. And I've been to so many recitals where parents and kids have been bored to tears. And the kids are humiliated to go up and play something they don't enjoy and they don't play it well. The performance level is poor. The technical is poor. And people are polite and applaud, but it's not because they are enjoying the event. So I do want to throw in there that I do the mini recitals, and I expect the mini recitals to be a more formal event. And each child there plays six to 8 pieces themselves. And they have an opportunity to learn how to perform and how to perform at a capacity that is bigger than what you would if you only get to play one song. And so for anybody who thinks, that it's all fun and games, it's not. I'm nasty sometimes.
I can't imagine that, Linda.
But just, I do like a high level of performance. I expect the kids to know how to advance with confidence to the piano. I expect them to know how to enter the piano, how to leave, how to put their hands poised on their laps, how to really, I expect all that. But that should come out more, I think, in a mini recital where they're focused on just, a few people are there. A mini recital, there might only be, 10 people there compared to the big recitals where there could be, 50 to 100, who knows, depending on how much fun it's going to be.
The thing that I get, though, from what you're doing is that students have multiple opportunities to perform in different situations. So they have those coffee house ones where it's all a bit more chilled and it doesn't have to be so refined. And then you've got your more formal, bigger ones where they do all the bowing and they probably dress really appropriately and things like that. Yeah. And I think that's perhaps what some of us miss in our studios. We just think of a recital as one thing because of the nature of classical tradition. It's size, it's tails, it's no clapping between movements and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't have to be how we do recitals in our studio. And you've just proved that there are all sorts of different ways you can do it, and you can do it multiple times through the year, and all of them can be completely different. And I think that's what's so fun about what we've been talking about today.
It is fun.
So
I keep everybody in suspense.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think they know what's going to come, which is great. So do you have any information about what you do online, Linda?
Oh, not officially, no. No, I do. That would take time, you see, and I don't have that kind of time.
That's true.
No, I do, like on my Facebook page, I do post stuff there. And website, I find it a little harder to keep it up to date because I don't know how to do it myself. And I have to get stuff to somebody else. And mind you, the studio's moved 4 times in the last 2 years. So that might settle.
Yes.
And so basically I put it on my personal site and on my Facebook page, but that's about the limit of it yet.
Well, I totally understand.
I should be doing a bit more.
Totally understand why that's the case. So if you want to connect with Linda, well, of course, the most obvious place would be to head to the Inner Circle and join us in there, because Linda is there with the likes of Bradley Soash, who Linda's having some lessons with, and all our other great members and experts there. So do join us there. Otherwise, we'll put links to Linda's website and Facebook page in our show notes, so you can go and have a look at some of the pictures from these amazing events that she's running. Thank you so much, Linda, for joining us today, and thank you very much for being a member of the community.
You are so welcome. Thank you for this opportunity.
So what did you think? Have you got some new ideas that you could potentially use in your studio? I certainly was very inspired by just the nature of the innovation and creativity that Linda is showing with his recitals and events that she's running. Be sure to let us know in the Inner Circle forums how you go and what new recitals you're planning for your studio. Next week on the podcast, I have a very special guest. He's actually an attorney, and next week we're answering a whole lot of legal questions. And so I've reached out to everyone in my audience and our members and asked, what legal questions would you like answers to? And next week we're going to go through them all. And I tell you what, it's a fascinating show. And some of the questions will be relevant to everyone. Some of them are a little bit more specific, but one of them in particular relating to our own security as piano teachers and covering ourselves will ring bells for many of you, I know. So make sure you do tune into that. It's a really important episode, and I look forward to bringing it to you next week. I'm Tim Topham, and this is the Creative Piano Teaching Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Just before you go, if you've enjoyed today's show, I'd love for you to check out my Inner Circle piano teaching community. It's the go-to resource for piano teachers looking to continue their professional development, connect with other teachers and experts around the world, and to access hundreds of world-class training resources, including our academy courses, lesson plans, teaching videos, technology help, and much more. Whether you're just starting out or have been working hard to build your studio for a while, the Inner Circle community will give you the skills, support, and confidence you need to grow the studio of your dreams. Whether that's just about teaching a small number of students one-on-one in your home, or about hiring a commercial space, employing other teachers, and building an entire music teaching empire. With courses on both the teaching and business side of running your studio, live coaching, and our thriving community forums, you can get quick answers to questions, set yourself challenges, get feedback on your ideas, and feel confident teaching in new and exciting ways. For more info and how to join us inside the circle, head over to timtopham.com/community today. I'll see you on the inside.
Will conclude this evening's entertainment.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Creative Piano Teaching Podcast. We'd love to help take your teaching to the next level as a member of our supportive community. Use the coupon Piano Podcast for $100 off an annual membership of Tim's Inner Circle today. To find out more, head to timtopham.com/community.